Hello, and welcome back to the Military Matrix. Tonight, we bring you breaking news that could redefine the course of the war in Eastern Europe. Ukraine has just struck a devastating blow, cutting off the vital supply line connecting Russia to occupied Crimea. For years, Moscow has relied on that route as its lifeline, a symbol of dominance and a crucial artery for its military machine. But now, reports confirm that the bridge and adjoining supply corridors are either destroyed or rendered unusable. The shockwaves are already being felt in Moscow, as Russian officials scramble to respond to what many are calling the most significant Ukrainian strike since the start of the full-scale invasion. The Crimean Peninsula has always been more than just a piece of land. It's a symbol, a cornerstone of Putin's vision for a restored Russian empire. Since its annexation in 2014, Crimea has served as both a military stronghold and a political trophy, housing key naval bases and command centers that gave Moscow control over the Black Sea. The 19-kilometer Kerch Bridge, stretching across the Strait to Russia, was not only a logistical channel, but also a monument to Putin's power, opened with fanfare and hailed as a symbol of unity between Russia and Crimea. That symbol now lies in ruins. According to Ukrainian defense sources and independent satellite imagery, precise strikes, possibly using underwater drones and long-range missiles, have severely damaged the bridge structure. The road and rail connections have been rendered inoperable, effectively isolating Crimea from the Russian mainland. Russian media outlets initially downplayed the incident, calling it a minor disruption. But footage emerging online shows flames, collapsed sections, and halted traffic across the span. The Kremlin's silence in the face of this disaster speaks volumes. This attack wasn't spontaneous. For months, Ukraine has been methodically targeting the arteries that feed Russia's war machine. It began with deep strikes on fuel depots and ammunition trains. Then came a wave of drone assaults on naval targets in Sevastopol. Now, Ukraine has gone for the jugular, severing the last reliable supply route connecting Russia to its forces in southern Ukraine and Crimea. Intelligence experts suggest this move could be the culmination of a long-planned strategy aimed at paralyzing Russia's logistical backbone before winter sets in. The results are already visible. Reports from the peninsula describe fuel shortages, rationing, and panic among Russian troops stationed there. Military convoys are stranded, with supplies dwindling and reinforcements delayed. Russian social media channels are filled with angry messages from soldiers' families demanding answers. Civilians in Crimea have begun stockpiling essentials, fearing that the isolation could last for weeks or even months. Local authorities have imposed fuel rationing, and transport between Sevastopol and the mainland has slowed to a crawl. For Russia, this is more than a tactical setback, it's a strategic humiliation. The bridge was one of Putin's most celebrated projects, often shown on state television as proof of Russia's engineering prowess and national unity. Its destruction delivers a psychological blow to both the Kremlin and the Russian public. It exposes Moscow's vulnerability and shows that Ukraine, despite limited resources, can strike at the very heart of Russia's military infrastructure. Ukraine's message is clear: Crimea is no longer untouchable. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly said that the liberation of Crimea is a non-negotiable goal. This latest operation reinforces that statement, demonstrating Kyiv's growing reach and technological sophistication. Western intelligence sources confirm that Ukraine's targeting precision has improved dramatically over the past year, thanks to advanced reconnaissance drones and Western-supplied missile systems. Each successful strike deepens Russia's logistical crisis and chips away at the myth of its invincibility. Inside the Kremlin, this event is being treated as a national emergency. President Putin reportedly convened an emergency meeting with senior military officials and intelligence chiefs. State media coverage has been tightly controlled, with only brief mentions of a transport disruption due to sabotage. However, leaks from Moscow suggest intense frustration and blame, shifting within the Russian command. Some analysts believe that the failure to protect the bridge may trigger another wave of military purges similar to what followed earlier Ukrainian strikes on Russian bases and warships in the Black Sea. Meanwhile, Ukraine is celebrating the moment as a turning point. Across social media, Ukrainian officials and citizens share images of the damaged bridge, calling it a crack in the empire. Crowds in Kyiv have gathered in public squares, waving flags and chanting slogans of victory. Military commentators are calling this a psychological break, through a signal to both Ukrainians and the international community that victory, once thought impossible, may now be within reach. But beyond the symbolism lies a cold strategic reality. Crimea has long been Russia's central logistics hub for operations across southern Ukraine. Everything from ammunition and fuel to food and reinforcements flowed through that single corridor. With it now severed, Russian forces across the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts face a supply crisis. Analysts warn that without rapid alternatives, Moscow could soon be forced to withdraw or scale down operations in key southern sectors. Ukrainian forces, meanwhile, could exploit this moment to launch new offensives or tighten pressure on Russian positions along the Dnipro River. Military experts also note that this strike has profound naval implications. The Black Sea Fleet, already reeling from a series of drone and missile attacks, is now cut off from reliable land-based supplies. Fuel and munitions deliveries will have to rely on vulnerable sea routes, which Ukraine has proven capable of targeting. In essence, Crimea, once a fortress, has become a trap. Russian troops stationed there now face the prospect of isolation, dwindling resources, and growing unrest among local collaborators. The reaction abroad has been swift. Western capitals have hailed the development as proof that sustained military aid to Ukraine is paying off. NATO officials describe the strike as a strategic masterstroke that reshapes the balance of power in the region. In contrast, Russian allies such as Belarus and Iran have remained silent, signaling unease at Moscow's worsening position. China, while officially neutral, has reportedly urged restraint, fearing that a desperate Kremlin might escalate the conflict further. Back in Moscow, the mood is grim. Economic markets have reacted nervously, with the ruble dipping and energy prices fluctuating. Social media censorship has intensified as the Kremlin seeks to contain public outrage. Opposition voices have used the chaos to question Putin's leadership, pointing out that his promise to make Russia stronger has instead brought it to the brink of isolation. Even among the military elite, whispers of discontent are growing louder, with some insiders privately admitting that the war's momentum is slipping away. For ordinary Russians, this event has shattered illusions. The once celebrated images of the shining Crimean bridge, illuminated at night as a symbol of unity, now contrast starkly with scenes of smoke, fire, and destruction. Propaganda can mask defeat only for so long, and as the truth spreads, so too does doubt about the future of the war and the regime leading it. For Ukraine, the timing of this strike could not be more significant. With winter approaching, both sides were preparing for a prolonged standoff. By targeting logistics now, Kyiv ensures that Russia will enter the cold months under immense strain. Supplies will be harder to deliver, troop morale will drop, and maintaining large-scale operations will become increasingly unsustainable. It's a calculated move, one that combines military precision with psychological warfare. Still, the battle for Crimea is far from over. Russia will likely attempt to repair the bridge or establish temporary supply lines using ferries and cargo ships. The Kremlin may also retaliate with intensified missile strikes across Ukraine, targeting infrastructure in Kyiv, Odessa, and Mykolaiv. But every retaliatory attack comes at a cost, draining Russia's missile reserves and inviting further Western support for Ukraine. As analysts observe, this moment could define the trajectory of the war in 2025. If Ukraine maintains pressure, the loss of Crimea's supply route could set off a domino effect, leading to the gradual weakening of Russian positions across southern Ukraine. If Moscow cannot adapt, it risks losing not only territory but also credibility on the world stage. In essence, This is not just a military event, it's a political earthquake. The cutting of the Crimean connection exposes deep cracks in Russia's war machine and challenges the image of control that Putin has tried to project. It shows that no fortress is impenetrable and no regime, however powerful, is immune to the consequences of overreach. The world is watching. As the smoke clears over the Kerch Strait, one truth stands out: the tide of war may be turning. For Ukraine, this is a moment of vindication, proof that resilience, strategy, and international unity can overcome even the mightiest of adversaries. For Russia, it's a warning that the costs of aggression are catching up, and the empire it sought to rebuild may soon crumble from within. This is the military matrix. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this unfolding story, the strike that could change the fate of Crimea, the course of the war, and perhaps the future of the Kremlin itself.